Clarence, I like you. I always have. Always will.
Did you know Christian Slater was once hailed as the next Jack Nicholson? With that devilish grin, rebellious charm, and unmistakable voice, Slater lit up screens in cult hits like Heathers, Pump Up the Volume, and True Romance. For a moment, he wasn't just the voice of a generation, he was its smirk. But the fire burned fast. Substance abuse, arrests, tabloid scandals. Just as he was stepping into leading man territory, his personal life hit the brakes. Then, just as quietly, he started coming back. So, what the hell happened to Christian Slater? Let's fade to black. Christian Michael Leonard Slater was born on August 18, 1969 in New York City, practically into the business. His mother, Mary Jo Slater, was a casting director with serious clout, and his father, Michael Hawkins, was a soap opera actor best known for Ryan's Hope. It was the kind of household where television and scripts were part of the furniture, and it didn't take long for young Christian to get curious. He made his first on-screen appearance at just 8 years old, landing a small role on the soap One Life to Live, the same show his father worked on. But this wasn't just a case of a stage mum pushing her kid into showbiz. Slater had the bug. He trained at the prestigious professional children's school and later at the LaGuardia High School of Performing Arts, the same school that turned out Jennifer Aniston, Al Pacino, and Sarah Paulson. Even as a teenager, Slater was restless. He had a natural smirk, the kind that made teachers suspicious and directors intrigued. There was already an edge to him. You could tell he wasn't going to be the squeaky clean Disney kid. And by the time he was 15, he landed his first big screen role. It was 1985's The Legend of Billie Jean, a cult film that flopped at the box office but quietly carved out a following. Slater played the younger brother of Helen Slater, no relation despite the name, and though the movie was a mess of mid-80s angst and rebellion, Christian stood out. He had something, maybe not polish, but presence. That presence would become his trademark. One of his first major film roles came in The Name of the Rose, opposite Sean Connery. Released in 1986, the medieval murder mystery cast Slater as a young novice monk drawn into a dark investigation inside a 14th century monastery. It was a far cry from his later rebellious teen image, but it gave him a chance to work alongside a Hollywood legend. The real turning point came in 1989, but first, a quick stop just before it. That year, Slater starred in Gleaming the Cube, a skateboarding thriller that didn't make much noise at the box office, but quietly found a little following over the years. He played Brian Kelly, a rebellious suburban teen trying to solve his brother's murder, all while bombing down highways on a skateboard. It wasn't a great film, but it helped cement Slater's appeal as a cool, offbeat presence, someone who could play the outsider and still carry a movie. But Heathers is where everything changed. A pitch-black teen comedy soaked in sarcasm, murder, and social satire. It was miles away from the bubblegum high school films of the era. Slater played JD, the trenchcoat-wearing sociopath who seduces Winona Ryder and plots the deaths of her classmates. The film bombed on initial release, but it became an instant classic, and critics couldn't stop comparing Slater to Jack Nicholson, not just because of the eyebrows and the voice, but because of the vibe. That gleeful, slightly dangerous unpredictability. Slater didn't seem like he was performing for the camera. He carried himself like someone who was meant to be on screen, relaxed, sharp, and clearly enjoying every second of it. In 1990, he also joined the cast of Young Guns 2 as Arkansas Dave Rudabaugh. The film was part of the Brat Pack meets Western trend, and while it wasn't a defining role for Slater, it kept him visible and riding high alongside the era's most bankable young stars. He wasn't just the edgy outsider anymore, he was in the studio system now. Off-screen, that same energy followed him. He gave off a weird kind of star power, charming, but with this barely hidden volatility. Directors loved him. He was raw and instinctive, and in 1990 that energy found its most potent outlet yet, Pump Up the Volume. Slater played Mark Hunter, a shy high school student by day who transforms into a pirate radio DJ by night. The movie, which tapped into teen alienation and censorship in Reagan-era America, wasn't a smash hit, but again, Slater was the standout. Hollywood took notice. Studios wanted a piece of him, but they didn't quite know what to do with him. He was too edgy for rom-coms, too unpredictable for family fare, so they put him in genre films and thrillers. In 1991, he co-starred with Kevin Costner in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, playing the wisecracking Will Scarlet. The movie was a blockbuster, and Slater, even with limited screen time, stole every scene he was in. By now, Slater was one of the hottest young actors in Hollywood, His name could get a film greenlit. He had that elusive quality, the ability to make everything he did seem effortless, whether it was the underrated cuffs, the forgotten mobsters, or the offbeat untamed heart. He made choices that veered between smart and risky, sometimes both. And then came True Romance. By 1993, Christian Slater was everywhere, but it was True Romance that cemented his reputation as more than just a cool-looking Gen X icon. It proved he could really act. Written by Quentin Tarantino and directed by Tony Scott, the film had all the makings of a cult classic: hyper-stylized violence, a loaded ensemble cast, and a love story soaked in blood and desperation. Slater played Clarence Worley, a lonely Elvis-obsessed comic shop clerk who falls for a girl named Alabama, played by Patricia Arquette. What follows is a whirlwind of drugs, gangsters, shootouts, and a suitcase full of cocaine. Clarence wasn't a clean-cut hero. He was impulsive, delusional, and maybe even a little unhinged, but Slater made him magnetic. He brought vulnerability to a role that could have easily been cartoonish. Underneath the gun-waving bravado was a guy just desperate to feel like his life meant something. Slater nailed it, and while the film underperformed at the box office, it became legendary in hindsight. True Romance may not have made much noise in theatres, but over time it earned a reputation as one of the most stylish and influential crime films of the 90s, a perfect storm of Tarantino's raw dialogue and Tony Scott's kinetic direction. From there, Slater should have been unstoppable. He starred opposite Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt in Interview with the Vampire, a role he took over after the tragic death of River Phoenix. Slater donated his salary from the film to Phoenix's favourite charities, and the gesture earned him quiet respect in the industry. But even with that positive press, the next few years would be a mixed bag. He headlined the slick John Woo thriller Broken Arrow with John Travolta, a box office hit that proved he could handle the action lead role. He also dipped into darker material like Murder in the First, where he played a lawyer trying to save a prisoner from the death penalty. It was a solid performance, but the film failed to break through. And then there were the misfires: Hard Rain, Julian Poe, Very Bad Things. None of them caught fire, and while Slater was still working steadily, the quality of the roles started to slide. The boy wonder of Heathers and True Romance was slowly morphing into the guy you called when your lead dropped out. By the late 1990s, the cracks were impossible to ignore, and the headlines were becoming impossible to outrun. In 1994, Slater was arrested for attempting to board a commercial flight with a firearm in his luggage. He was sentenced to 3 days of community service. It seemed like a one-off at the time, a dumb mistake, but the real trouble was only just beginning. In 1997, he was arrested after a violent incident involving his then-girlfriend and a police officer. He was reportedly under the influence of heroin, cocaine, and alcohol. The incident ended in assault charges, a court-mandated rehab stint, and 59 days behind bars. At that point, Slater wasn't known for his films anymore. He was known for his mugshot. The charming outsider image that made him so magnetic in the late 80s had curdled into something darker. Directors stopped calling, studios grew very cautious, and casting agents, including some who had once championed him, quietly moved on to safer bets. And the thing was, he knew it. He later admitted that the success had come too fast, that he was immature, that he blew it. In one interview, he joked that he spent most of the late 90s sabotaging his own career one tabloid story at a time. It was a bitter laugh, but an honest one. He bounced around in smaller films, many of them forgettable B-movie thrillers, direct-to-video releases, and awkward appearances in ensemble projects. Occasionally there'd be a spark, a cameo, a quirky supporting role that reminded people just how good he could be, but it wasn't enough to shift the narrative. Christian Slater, once tipped to be the next Jack Nicholson, was now seen as damaged goods. The 2000s weren't kind to Christian Slater, or maybe it's fairer to say he wasn't kind to himself. After the tabloid implosion of the late 90s, he spent most of the next decade in what you could call career purgatory. He kept working, that much is true, but the roles were a far cry from his breakout days. He starred in forgettable thrillers like Mindhunters and Alone in the Dark, made straight-to-DVD action movies that barely registered, and did voice work to pay the bills. There were some interesting turns, like his performance in The West Wing or his brief return to theatre, but the buzz was gone. By the mid-2000s, Christian Slater had become the kind of actor whose name was used in headlines like "Remember Him?" He tried a few television comebacks. In 2008, he starred in NBC's My Own Worst Enemy, a dual-identity spy series that was cancelled after just 9 episodes. Then came The Forgotten, another misfire. It wasn't that Slater was bad, in fact he was often the best thing in these shows, but audiences didn't seem ready to let him all the way back in. The difference now was how he handled it. In interviews, Slater had changed. The arrogance had been replaced by humility. He acknowledged the damage he'd done to his career. He talked openly about addiction, rehab, and the mistakes that cost him years, and he didn't blame anyone else. It was quietly refreshing, and it laid the groundwork for one of the most surprising reinventions in modern Hollywood. In 2015, everything changed. Slater landed a lead role in Mr. Robot, a psychological techno-thriller created by Sam Esmail. He played the mysterious anarchist hacker known simply as Mr. Robot, opposite Rami Malek's emotionally fractured lead. The series was sharp, stylish, and politically charged, a far cry from the loud action films of Slater's past. And he was phenomenal. It wasn't just that he was good, it was that he felt completely at home in this darker, more cerebral space. Slater's performance was layered, strange, and magnetic, a perfect mirror to Malek's twitchy paranoia. For the first time in decades, critics were raving about him again. He won a Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actor in 2016, and suddenly the phrase comeback didn't seem so far-fetched. But Slater didn't let it go to his head. He kept working, smaller roles, voiceover gigs, supporting turns, and seemed to finally find peace in being a working actor instead of a movie star. Off-screen, Slater's transformation was just as dramatic. He married Brittany Lopez in 2013, and by all accounts his life today is quiet, grounded, and far removed from the chaos of his past. He's spoken about how fatherhood changed his outlook, how therapy and sobriety helped him rebuild, and how he no longer chases the highs, career-wise or otherwise. There's still a little glint in his eye when he's on talk shows. That rebel charm isn't gone, it's just been tempered by time. These days, Slater seems more self-aware than ever. He's happy to poke fun at his former bad boy image. He knows exactly how close he came to burning it all down, and that honesty is probably what's kept people rooting for him all these years. So, what do we make of Christian Slater? He never quite became the A-lister everyone expected him to be, but maybe that's not the point. What he gave us was something we don't see often anymore, a star who wasn't trying to be polished or perfect or PR safe. He was unpredictable, raw, and sometimes a mess, but always interesting. From Heathers to True Romance, from Scandal to Redemption, from jail cells to Golden Globes, Christian Slater's career isn't just a comeback story, it's a survival story, and somehow that makes it all the more compelling. If you enjoyed this look back at Christian Slater's rise, fall, and unexpected resurgence, give us a like and consider subscribing for more deep dives into the careers of the stars you grew up watching. Drop a comment and let us know who I should cover next, and as always, thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next one.